pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I added to the agenda, I found it kind of clumsy, the way we were doing attendance, so I figured we could just cut and paste this in each week. It's a roll call. So Sherry, do you want to do the roll call, I guess, each week? I guess you can do it. I think they're in alphabetical order.
Yep.
Okay?
Sherry Ockery, here.
Okay.
Jeff Karen,
Here?
Jay Edwards,
Here.
Thomas Haley,
Here.
Ruth Hollenbach,
Present.
Deborah Janik,
Here.
Jennifer Jocelyn, Justin LaCroix, Brendan McNally,
Here?
Jennifer Rashley, Joseph Souza.
Present.
I just got a text message from Justin LaCroix, and he is, I think he's okay, but it's having some kind of a medical test and said he's hooked up to a bunch of wires. He's fine, he's just doing something, I don't know. So he just said he couldn't make it. So, so be it. He's fine, though. So he'll be here next week, he said.
Being recharged.
Yeah, he's getting charged up or something, he's fine. But he is in some sort of a medical issue, so. And we know that Jennifer Jocelyn was going to be away. She said that last week. Great. So, I made a mistake already. Does anyone know what it is? Nope.
Yes.
Oh, maybe I did, but
What else?
the bigger mistake.
Let's see.
I need to entertain a motion to add something to
that's
the
right.
agenda.
Yep.
What is it?
Public.
A public, public discussion, yes. So I will do that. I'll entertain a motion to add public discussion to the agenda.
And I missed it too, sorry.
So who's going to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to add public discussion to the agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so, did you get that vote, Sherry? Okay, so, we now have public discussion on the table. I will ask if any members of the public would like to speak. Any members of the public like to speak?
Just get in line orderly, please.
Be respectful.
Last chance, okay? I'm going to end the public discussion. We'll end that section of the agenda. Thank you, everyone. So, the next item on the agenda will be the discussion of the town clerk's budget. And I'll call forward the town clerk, Nancy Mello. And I want to thank Nancy for her patience last week, which I know we pushed at. But thank you very much, Nancy, for coming back tonight.
I do want to give to the secretary, Joe, this is your recusal form, and it was filed, but you should keep that with your records,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
We filed the original.
I just want to make sure that I, and I'm sure everyone on the committee does, has the correct documents, and I'm going to probably be the last one to find them, because I always am. Is it a separate document? I think you handed out a separate
Yeah,
Right.
document, right, initially?
it's got probate on it.
It should look like this.
It looks
Yeah, I
like
remember.
it's the
It's
same one that's in the
Has 3 or
book.
4. Yeah,
The-
I gave it to the administrator. so
Okay.
it'll be
No, there's
in the
more
book.
pages in her.
Right, but the
It's
top
just-
one.
More pages in her packet than are in the book.
Town clerk's
That's
department,
because
is
they're
that it?
different, they're different
There are
lines.
multiple accounts, like
They're
the
different.
probate
And
and
put
some
a
of the
summary on the top.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Everyone ready to rumble? Okay.
Okay, so I'm reading off the little packet I gave you, which should be individually in the, so how about if we start with our probate budget first? Does it matter which way you go?
Well, just because the agenda is a certain way, do you mind following it, or does it mess you
I
up?
don't care, I don't have it in front of me, so you want me to do
Just,
the clerk? first?
just because I'm trying to be squeaky clean,
That's fine.
if that's okay. The first one is town clerk's budget, so
Okay.
then we don't have to have any oddness in that.
So the department salary, I have included a 2% increase there. The staff salary, I'll do last because I've added a position there, or a pot position. The longevity, that's contractual. I have 3 full-timers that receive longevity. The recording expenses, I kept level, and I did base it on my 5-year averages and where I stood this year on it. So stamp tax, if you follow the revenue reports, I don't know if you get the revenue and the expense reports, but if you do, you'll see the stamp taxes and stuff are up because there's been a change in the open space portion. And the recording fees are about the same. We'll hit our mark. We should hit our mark, but they're about the same, so I'm keeping the expense to it the same. Recodify, I've increased it from 10,000 to 11,000, to 15,000, and that is because they're going to be working on the comp plan and bringing all that into agreement with the zoning. So there's going to be more to codify. So that's where that estimate comes from. I don't even think that will be enough, but I don't think they can get everything done in 1 year, so I'm kind of pacing it that way as well.
That's subbed out. That's something that we do outhouse, right?
But we do it with MuniCode down in Florida,
Okay.
which is where most,
Trying to remember, I know you told me, but if you refresh
yeah,
my memory.
it's through MuniCode.
So as council adopts new,
We can send them right away. We got backlogged with
so
not
it's
getting clean copies.
Like our land use and planning code.
Any ordinance any amendment to an ordinance or an ordinance that the council adopts, it could be no parking on the side of a certain street, that's in our ordinance book, it's an amendment to it, I have to send it down to be codified. There's a very big portion going down now.
All right, I remember now.
Yeah.
I know you had told me several times, but I keep forgetting.
And if they do a rewrite, they do have some money in the budget this year to begin the process, but they're supposed to be doing a zoning overhaul. It's going to create a lot of, the advertising and it's obviously more expensive each year to get this stuff codified. So supplies, I believe I kept the same. And I did. And I know I've explained it to the Budget Committee before, but for the benefit of the new members, because under the clerk, I have the Board of Canvas and the probate. This year, I'm not handling the expense of the municipal court because that's under the police department. Because we couldn't get through their service to get the e-ticketing and all this. So there's now a person there that handles it. So, but I do interchange them. Like if I need paper, it doesn't matter whether I need it for the probate or for the Board of Canvas. I'm going to take it out of whatever supply account I have in that office. The photocopier, I'm sorry to say, is really on its last leg. We keep it down because we own the copy machine, and we only have to pay, I think it's $1,000 something a year, other than these breakdowns. But last week, we had several days we didn't even have we couldn't tell what we were copying or how to do it because the image thing was down. and they cannot get pots for us anymore, so we are really on our last leg. But the administrator does want to consider this in with his technology accounts. So when I come back in March with the final budget, if there's any change to this, I will address it at that time.
Can I just ask a question on that one? So photocopier lease, so it's not a lease, we own it, you said?
We now own it.
It used to be,
Yes.
maybe it was a lease back in the day.
It was
Okay.
leased, and then we bought it for $1 at the end of the
Right,
lease.
okay.
And it really is a workhorse in there, I have to tell you, the stuff we're.
This is the one right here that everyone uses.
That's this one, yes,
Yeah.
that everything is copied off of.
What are we
And,
talking about for a new copy machine? It's like, what, $14,000 or?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't really looked into a new one. We've always leased.
Yeah, I'm just.
all of 'em.
Well, I mean,
But-
if you are leasing it, I'm saying the total,
Yeah.
you know, I mean.
But it would be higher than the 4,500, I can tell you, a lease
Yeah,
for a year.
but I'm saying. I
Because
just
we were
don't
paying
understand.
like 7,000 and 8,000
It
before.
might be worth looking to see if, I mean, don't wait until somebody does a plan. Maybe you should come with us some prices before we finish the
Well-
budget, and then we can maybe put it in there.
Yeah, I did intend to do that, but the administrator has asked that I,
It's a small
you know,
item.
wait for him
It's
to
not-
come up with whatever he's going to do. I think there are other departments that might be in my predicament.
Yeah, I know,
But until then, we'll just keep running it, but it's going to stop, and I'm going to have to immediately get something in. I can't go without a copy machine
I mean,
in there.
you're making copies for every committee on that machine, so I mean, that's like the major machine, you know.
Oh,
Going downstairs,
yeah.
breaking.
We're doing
coming
thousands
in,
of
so-
copies a day.
That's what I'm saying, you know, that machine runs to town, basically, as far as committee and town, you know, council and things like that, so, in our books.
Well, I do have to come back on, whenever, after
we'll
March
talk
6th
about
with my
that.
final budget, and I will try to get better arrangements on that.
Yeah, call copyboard.
I have a question. I have a question on the copier.
Yes.
The whole paper system, I mean, we're really supposed to be going more and more paperless, and you're talking about the technology being upgraded, so why would that even need any copier? I mean, I can understand you need it for certain documents, I understand, but it's just that I'm not sure that you need maybe as a workhorse as you may have needed in the past, because, I mean, we are going more paperless, and the technology's getting better, so can you give me examples of where you absolutely have to have a paper copy, other than agendas, things like that, the business of town, in the town, where you have to have paper? Why can't you just email people and, it's legal, I'm just asking,
Yeah.
Nancy, yes.
Well, for one thing, we're not paperless yet, because
Mm-hmm.
our council gets copies of all backup, everything that goes through there. I mean, that thing is just going, all vital records go through there, all copies of programs go through there. Board of Election runs, we run our books off everything. I mean, that thing runs all day. I wish, but we tried getting those small pads for the council, but it, you know, unless you got every councilor a
Nancy?
iPad, a laptop, you're gonna have a hard time going.
Is there any other town that's making progress on this that you know of around us, that we could just look at?
Some of them with council are paperless.
Can you tell me
And
which?
we do scan and send the backup to each councilor as well. But when they're up there, they like the papers in there.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
different boards and commissions. And, I mean, they are all volunteers, they shouldn't be, and I've never refused any of them coming in and making copies.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what town it is you were thinking about, that you were?
I know Portsmouth is paperless.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure.
Chair,
about that town.
excuse me, can we do what we had spoken
Yeah,
of with the questioning?
Yeah, I kind of botched up the rule there because I asked the question initially. So what I'm going to try to do is, I thought about this last time, over the week, actually. So, and I sort of broke my own rule there, but what I'd like to do is, we'll let the clerk go through maybe this section, this, what is it, 8 or 9 accounts, and when she's gone through her piece, and again, I broke my own rule, I was gonna go around and do the round robin then. So I think that would be a way to do it, where we can, you know, try to bite off more than one line at a time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thought we were already through the budget.
Well, anyway, I'm for questions, I mean. Where are you at,
Other than the
Nancy?
staff salary, right now I have 3 full-timers and 1 part-timer. And I don't know how many of you were on the council, but when we sent the daily duties of the ticket process to the police department, I dropped down a half a clerk and said, we will try this. And I think some of the members on
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to try doing this and see how it works out, but I can tell you if it doesn't work, I'm going to come back. Well, last year, we had some elections, and it was just horrific. I had to bring in untrained help to get me through some of the work, and it was very difficult. I cannot operate that, especially when I look forward to the coming year with a presidential preference primary and a presidential primary and general election. There's no way they're going to get through that. The demands on Board of Canvas is more and more. The training to it, they'll be starting June, July of this year, they'll start training. I'll have to send 2 people up to the state every other week or so, or at least a month, and then every 2 weeks to get training and all. I can't operate in there without, we're going to slip up and something's going to happen. And what happens is I take more and more of the work on myself, and I can't do that now. So, one of the problems I have is I have no deputy clerk, and I've got to get a deputy clerk in there. I don't have someone that can handle the work that I do. Now, those clerks are efficient in handling their recordings and their vitals and stuff like that. But the probate, I still get bogged down with the decision-making and everything that goes on beyond the actual clerical work, which I shouldn't be putting my time into. It's just bogging the position of clerk down. I'm the only community in the state of Rhode Island without a deputy clerk. And I find that part of my own fault. Instead of taking on this stuff, I should have already had a trained clerk in there. So this year in the budget, what I've put in for, and what I'm hoping for, is the appointment of a deputy clerk. Now, I personally would like the deputy clerk to be non-union. It's not in any contract now, and I don't want it to be in a contract, because I want that clerk to be able to handle things that I handle. So if I'm not here and somebody's got to go in executive session, I want that clerk to be able to do that. Or because I deal with a lot of sensitive information from council, I want that deputy to be able to handle it. And beyond that, I need the deputy to be able to sign the documents as I sign them, because they would have the same ability and the same authority in my absence to sign. And I don't have anybody to do that now. I'm going on vacation in April, and anything that has to be signed for probate's gonna wait till I come back. Or anything that really needs my signature, there's no one in there that can take that responsibility.
So that's like death certificates and.
Oh, no, those are vital records, and they use my stamp on that. That's not my original signature on those. No,
Court and-
they can handle that stuff, but probate, no, it takes an original signature that waits till I'm there. And it can be anything for the town that needs signing. There's just no one with authority beyond me in there, and it's really not good. Who's gonna follow through? I mean, you need somebody, and you also need somebody that knows that end of the job more than the clerical end. So, what I'm contemplating and what I'm hoping to do is get somebody on a salary basis, because that person would be taking over the open session anyway of the council minutes. And if I could get somebody salaried, I wouldn't be paying the overtime. Now, I don't know if it's a possibility to do it that way, but that's what I'm hoping for. Because right now, these clerks are paid $23.03, and the town clerks get paid $24.08. When I'm paying her overtime, and rightfully so, nobody's gonna come to these meetings and take minutes and not be paid, compensated for it. But when I'm paying her overtime, it's something like $30-some, and I could get, I'm paying $35.58 an hour overtime. And it's worth it, because she then has to type the minutes during the day, and that takes her time too. What I'm hoping to do is try to get a job description on a deputy clerk that might be salaried, and if instead of paying 24-something an hour, I have to pay 26 an hour, but I'm not paying overtime, I'd still be ahead of the game, or the town would be ahead of the game. They would be in a big way
Yeah.
ahead
It
of the
would
game.
be a savings.
So that's why you're gonna see that on my request, it's $162.50. But I have to tell you, if I look at my last 5 years, and that's, I was at 132,687 5 years ago. Then it was 152,066, 156,561, 156,961, and then this year's 144,473, because I am only with a half person. You can't make it with a half person. That half person has to go up to full. And I think if I put a little added to it and made it a deputy, I think the town would be far better off for it.
So do you think, you foresee the salary, like, at what we're paying overtime now?
Well, a full-time clerk right now, my senior full-time clerk, and she does oversee the vital records, the recordings, she oversees that end of the, is paid $40,695. I'm gonna have to at least pay $45,000 to get someone to come nights and do these council meetings.
So is that how you determine the new figure
That's
for?
how we determine the new
that?
figure, yes.
Okay.
Excuse me, sorry to go backwards, but
Hang on one second. Are you done with your presentation then?
Yeah, on clerk, yes.
So I'll start with Sherry, we'll go this way.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's okay.
Okay, so my question is, do you have anybody that you have in mind for the deputy clerk that has some training in the office already? I mean, do you already have someone, or do you have to put that out like you would normally
We
for?
would still, I don't know whether we have to go to advertise, because we have 3 people that have already gone through the personnel board that we are using in temporary. But I'm not saying that's where that would go. There
Yeah.
would be a test for that position.
I just was wondering if there's a way to do like a salary raise, but some of your employees are already unionized anyway, right?
All my employees.
Are unionized, okay.
But it would not stop one of my union employees from saying,
I want to
"I'm
leave
gonna
the,
union and take on a deputy clerk." So I would anticipate it would go to whatever, if something came up like that, and it would be a tested position.
okay. Thank you, that's all my questions.
You've been very thorough. I have a question.
So Nancy, just so I understand, you're currently staffed with 3 FTEs with 1 part-time.
Yes.
And then your requested state would be 4
full-time.
FTEs. And the difference of bringing a part-time person up to this roughly
Yes,
45,000.
that's why you're not finding
Right.
it. Yes.
And then you just cited, for the last 5 years, a bunch of numbers, 132,000, then 150. That would be what the salary line item was,
That would be
plus
what
the
we
overtime,
actually spent
including overtime?
salary. Yes.
Okay, great. So for us to look at in terms of where we've been, the request for FY '20 is looking for $7,500 in overtime, right? So that's an increase. So it's both going to be looking for an increase in bringing a part-time position up to a full-time, And then it's also anticipating that there's going to be overtime, correct?
Well, depending upon what I would need for a salaried clerk, but if it was not a salaried clerk, if it, deputy, if it was a deputy that was paid hourly through there, I would still have to pay.
Then the overtime kicks in.
So hopefully, I will be presenting my request to the council as well, just so everybody's on the same page. And by the time I come back in March, I probably would have better handle on that, but that's not, those numbers are pretty in the ballpark, very close. It would depend whether it was salary or overtime.
So you're looking to take that part-time and make part-time full-time? Or add a
I
full-time?
don't know what other positions are coming up in the town. I'm only saying that it would be a full-time deputy at the clerk's office.
So
And I
right,
would not have the necessary for a part-time
part-time,
position as
okay.
well.
So we'd go from 3 full-time plus 1 part-time to 4
4
full-time
full-time.
and not the part-time.
Right.
And then, do you think that some of the overtime, I know you have, right now, you have someone comes to the council, so it's kind of planned overtime, you know they're going to be in overtime. Do you think some of it was because you were down half a position and a lot of it was with the election?
What I had to do for that was go to the council and request $6,000 to be able to hire a temporary to get in there and help us through, because I also had someone that was out on surgery for several weeks. I have someone going on surgery again for 8 weeks or so, and I'm going to be down again. But the election process creates a lot of overtime for these girls. There's just a lot of added time that's necessary. They can't get out of here at 4 o'clock in election times. And that election time creeps up. It's not the week of the election. It's before then as well. Now, if it is relative just to the election, that comes out of the election account. That is charged to the election account for that process. However, if it's because I sent them up to the state for training, and that is continual, and you've got to send 2 people up there, they've got to be trained, the state just keeps changing those mandates on you. That I have to pay them for, and that, I don't take that out of the election accounts, unless it's done right during the election period, because that's a restricted account.
So the budget that was approved for 2019, you had to transfer money in just
I
to,
had to, yes, I couldn't make it on it.
okay. Thank
Not
you.
for health-wise,
Yeah.
not for employee-wise.
Thank you.
Nancy, so the 4 full-time, is one of those full-time your deputy clerk?
Yes, of the 4 full-timers that I'm projecting.
If you want,
next year,
if
it
you
was-
got your 4 full-time that you
Yes.
wanted, and then one of them would wear the hat deputy
One would
clerk.
wear the hat deputy clerk.
Okay, and that person would work a lot of evenings, because that's one of the goals, right?
Right.
The open sessions, and then that person would be here during the days, some of the time. Is that accurate?
No, they'd be here every day, because you come to a council meeting, you take the notes, you've got to type up those minutes.
No, I understand, but I mean, wouldn't that end up being like 60 hours a week or something, or some,
Well, no, it wouldn't be 60
Or
hours
whatever
a
it
week,
would
'cause
be, and
they work 8:30 to 4, they work 32 and a half hours a week.
okay. Okay, that's
But
fine.
it could be 40 hours a week, yes.
Okay, all right.
Could be 40 instead of 32 and a half.
Fair enough. I guess that was my point. I was just using amplified numbers. Okay, so I got that question answered. The other thing was this recodify the town. I mean, so there's one company down there, this always was kind of a pet peeve of mine, that we use, and everyone seems to use them, and it sounds like they have a monopoly on this. So what are the numbers we've used in the past? My memory escapes me, but, I mean, just in general, like, were they numbers like 5,000, or were they numbers like 30,000? I'm just trying to go back, like, in time.
We've used 6,000, 5,000, 11,000. I mean, we use different amounts because it depends whether we've actually sent everything that year. We had a 2-year period where we needed to get clean versions of all these ordinances. And one solicitor left and another solicitor came on board, and when they approved them, I have to get the clean copies and everything before we can get down. So we went a year without sending anything to be codified.
So what is it, I guess I missed it, so what, you said it, and I apologize, but this is a big number then, compared to history. I'm just trying to understand, what drives it so high to, where we think it's
What
gonna
is
be as
going to
high as
drive it
15?
this year is the comp plan has just been approved. And they are going to go out to RFP to be able to hire a consultant to help get the zoning laws into compliance with the comp plan. You only have a year, I think you have a year to do that. They're not going to do it all in 1 year, but there's going to be a lot more to send down to be codified than there usually is. Normally, it's just whatever the course of amendments to ordinances or, go through the council in the course of the year. But when you have something like a zoning overhaul or a comp plan, it's going to create a lot more being sent down. It's not cheap anymore.
Yeah, I understand. My final question, are you just estimating on that, like, based on how thick you think the paper's gonna be, or did you get a quote, or is that just like?
No, because I wouldn't know which
Right.
ones, but they did give a list of different ordinances that were going to have to be amended to get to there. So it's more than what we normally do in the course of a year.
What did I say too? We're in the wrong business. Okay, I'm all done, thank you. Ruth?
Yeah, Nancy. Is the training on here, the budget for training, a separate line item here anywhere?
You mean when I send them to the board
Yeah.
of canvases for training?
Wouldn't it be
No.
on, normally,
No.
I thought they did have a training line item for training, okay.
Not on
It's
mine,
just
I don't
included
know.
it's included in the,
Yeah, if
where,
I have to send someone to train, for training and stuff,
Yep.
and then the other ones don't end up going to lunch.
where's the line item that includes the training? I'm just trying to ask you.
It's just in the salaries.
In the salaries, okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay for the training.
Not for the state training you don't pay for.
I thought you said something about
Other training you do, but not that.
okay. Okay, so it's not something you have
Yeah.
to pay for. Okay, but that takes out of their workday, right, the time?
Takes out of their workday, so you've got to cover that, and you've got to, in most cases, when I have to send 2 out to training, because I only have another part-timer, the other girl can't go to lunch. Her and I have to cover, because we do not close for lunch, because we have attorneys in there all day doing recordings and things like that, so
I know the
we can't
feeling.
stop a recording and restart, so.
You're in the same boat as a lot of us. The company in Florida, I wonder if is there any other company you can use? Jeff mentioned he didn't have a good feeling about this company, and, no? Okay.
Just as a monopoly,
It's
that's
not
all.
Okay, the monopoly, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there
It's not the
any,
efficiency of the company, it's the fact that that's where everybody goes, that's, Muni code is national, and it just,
okay, and then, what brand is that copier again?
oh, I don't know.
Okay, I'll ask that later.
It is,
Last thing
I'll
is,
check later.
what? Xerox?
It was by Conacher, I think is who we leased from.
Okay, thanks. Last thing, the part-time workers, part-time people, Westport is trying to hire more part-time people. That way they do not have to pay certain types of benefits, and they get the same amount of work done. And that's something they consciously tried to do. I've been saying it for a couple of years now, and not your deputy, but others could be easily part-time. People like, at certain times in their lives, they may like a part-time job rather than full-time. You know, you're saying sometimes it's pretty exhausting, so, I mean, is there any way you could at some point, divide one of these full-time positions and have 2 part-timers? Is that something that you could ever suggest? That's what
That's
other
a
towns are
union.
doing.
I think that would be a union issue. I would still need two in the place of one, I can tell you, because I can't get it done with a part-timer.
Yeah, yeah.
But that would be a union.
So I'll check and see if Westport has
Yeah.
union issues with that. I was just curious. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Nancy, very good job. Since I'm brand new here, I don't know what longevity is. Could you explain that to me?
Longevity is a percentage of their pay that they are paid for the number of years that they have worked for the town. So I have one of, and you have to be full-time to get longevity. I have one full-time with 5 years in, so she gets 3% of her salary as longevity.
I see.
I have one with 10 years in, she gets 5% of the salary. And I have one with 15 years in, and she receives 6% of the salary. So that number is projected to what the salary would be, and it's contractual. I don't know.
I'd see. And so, no matter what their salary is, or they get this added percentage?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
depending on the number of years, it
Right,
escalates.
as you described, yeah. Thank you. That's all I have.
Jay?
Nope, as usual, Nancy has come well prepared.
Joe?
Well, that, if you make a note, please try to find out about that, a copy.
Yep.
That thing, it's just about going paperless. With the amount of backup, I think that has to come on, and I tried it when I was on the council to just use it like that, and you continuously having to flip pages, whereas I could have 6 pages laid in front of me, and go right to them, so it's kind of hard, and I tried it, but it is kind of hard to do the whole meeting online, so, on your computer. And, as things get better, maybe, the screens will move quicker. I probably don't have the most advanced computer either. I only paid $165 for it, but I'm just saying it is kind of hard, so that copier is kind of the lifeblood of this town. Every committee uses every.
Right, you're looking at me, so it's not only the meeting minutes, but other things that could go paperless. That's what I was thinking
Yeah.
earlier.
Oh. You all set, Joe?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, great.
Nancy's doing a good job as usual.
Thank you. So, with that being said, we should probably move on to the Board of Canvassers budget. That will be next on the agenda, listed as item 5. Excuse me. Item 5.
Okay, so, you will like this one. The Board of Canvassers has actually, that one has been reduced by 20,000.
Hooray.
And the only reason that is being reduced is because we have kept it on a schedule where we do, last year, we put 40,000 in, this year we're doing 20. We're trying not to get such high peaks and valleys, but for the year that this budget is covering, from July to the following June, I will have a presidential preference primary in February. But even though we're geared up and we start the expense of the general primary in September and the election is in November, it will be of 2020, so I'll be more focused. We'll have to go back to our 30 or 40,000 that year. But I think for this year, it just keeps replenishing that as a restricted election account, and it replenishes it.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to do this. Can someone take over notes for me? I have to go.
Would you be able to do that, Tom? Okay. Thank you. You got to run? Okay. So we just want to know that it was 8:45. Sorry, 7:45?
7:45.
7:45, thank you. Okay. Are you done with that presentation, or would you like
Yeah,
to?
everything else is, remained level funded from this year, and it looks like it's been that way for a couple of years. Our main expense on that is really the elections.
Okay. I'll start with Joe. Joe, do you have any questions on this one? Jay?
No.
How much do they pay the election workers? That man,
You're
the-
talking about the poll workers, or are you talking about the Board of Canvas members?
No, not the board of canvas, the people that sit and help at the elections and people who do things at the elections.
We actually are on the low end of the scale on that. We pay our supervisors, which are the ones that are at the table that you go in and check. I believe we pay them $70 for the day. We pay our clerks, which has the biggest job there. I believe we pay them, oh, yes, I believe we pay them $80. And the moderators, which are the ones by the voting machines, we pay them $80.
Okay, yeah, and that, I don't have a problem with that because it's actually
It's a
a
long
semi.
day for them. They have to set
but-
up,
but-
take down.
Yeah, I understand, but it is somewhat of a volunteer basis because they're saying, I would like to do this, and,
Yeah.
it's not like
We do
it's.
provide meals for them.
Mhm.
Generally, the parties chip
Okay.
in a certain amount, and then we only provide the dinner, and we have volunteers pick it up and bring it to them. I can tell you, we went to a meeting on this prior to this election. There are communities that give them, for goodness sakes, Middletown actually serves them breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right, but
So
just,
it's tough.
just
It's
to
tough
know-
to get them.
So is it?
right, but I think there are people who they put their name in for this, right? You go get, what do you mean it's difficult to get
We have
that?
to advertise for them and all. We use.
You always get enough, though, it seems like, do you?
Barely, we have to kind of keep enticing people to sign up. They come in that clerk's office, they're gonna get,
So that,
oh,
that could be a letter to the editor, just to,
Yeah.
or, someone could publicize it more. Yeah, thank you.
They're not fighting in line to do it, Ruth.
Yeah, I'm just saying, we need to drum it up, yeah, if possible.
oh, we put it out in the schools. We've made posters that we need you. We've done,
Okay,
we do try to do things, but it is difficult because we're not on the high end of the scale.
Right,
But we're
and-
not on the
and-
low end either.
and we're not also just the same as a Middletown or a Portsmouth either, so we have to realize that, yeah. Thank you.
Do you remember any discussion about trying to just like, instead of going 2040, 2040, 2040, just setting it at 30 and every year? Do you recall any discussion of that? I don't, I haven't been around.
Yeah, we did. We were
enough.
gonna put 30,000 each year.
Just, yeah.
And last year we put 40, so I thought 20 was enough this year.
No, I understand.
Last year, we got a little nervous because of general election, we thought it would be. But as I still have in that account 52,000, I thought, why, come that presidential election, I'm going to be using a lot.
I understand.
But I thought we were okay with the 20.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just had a question on that. Okay.
I'm all set.
And, Nancy, could you just, so in the request for the 25,
Oh,
obviously.
it says 25, yeah.
Right. The amounts that we end up spending cover the stipends for the day, if that's the right word, right? So you just talked about supervisors, clerks, moderators. That's what the account is used for, is in part to pay that. It's for the meals. What else is
The
in?
bulk of it is paying for the poll workers. That's quite a chunk of there, because we use 70-some, 80 poll
Yep.
workers.
Mhm.
And we're paying the poll workers for the day. We only pay the dinner meal. We pay for the paper that the ballots are printed on. We pay for the books to be printed. We pay for anything we need from there. We pay for the advertising out of there, for all, the statute requires you to. We pay for all the advertising for the election out of there. Anything at all that comes up, we pay a stipend of, it's only $250, but we pay a stipend to the BFW because they're closed for the day. You can't have other business in there. It's a lot of that. We had to get signs, new signs done up. We have to get handicap signs. The stanchions, the things they put it on. This past year, we actually, because the Board of Elections said now instead of, we used to have those signs that, you know, if you wear A to D, you went in one line. Can't do that anymore. They want you single-lined going down there, so we bought those stanchions to help with crowds, you know, at different times. So whatever is needed, we pay whatever we have to. If we have to use the DPW or the maintenance for overtime, we pay for police to be like Amicable Church. That's a very dark area. People park across the street. If we feel we need something like that, we cover that cost.
Great. So many, many items.
You know, I can't remember what else, but there is
That's okay.
a
No, that's
lot.
very helpful that there's,
That helps.
it's not just paying poll workers, it's
No.
many of these other
No,
things.
there's
Great.
a lot more.
Thank you.
The polls are usually open from what time to what time?
7 in the morning to 8.
And then the poll workers have to be there an hour before and an hour after. So it's really 6 to 9.
6 to 9, yes.
6
They have to stay
6
till
a.m.
it's cleaned up.
So,
Sometimes they still
so
don't
they're
have
there at least 15 hours.
At least.
And so they're getting a very modest stipend for a 15-hour day.
It is. It's a long time for some.
It's the equivalent of 2 days of work.
And you know, there's more, and that includes the training they go to. They have to go a separate night for training. Because remember, they're on those pull pads now. And a lot of them, you know, it takes training to do that.
How long does the training take?
The training takes 3 hours.
3
and
hours.
It's a separate night they have to go to, and that's
So-
all included in there.
So for a stipend of $70, they're putting in 20 hours for the town, approximately.
Probably close to it.
So they're not even making minimum wage even close.
Okay. I think that would conclude our discussion of that agenda item for the Board of Canvassers budget. And we should move on now to the discussion of the Financial Town referendum budget, which is item number 6 on the agenda.
Okay, that one is level, no change, level funded.
Okay?
And now that does not include any possibility of a runoff. But I believe last year on that resolution for the election account, it said it was restricted and it would include any, if it were necessary for runoff, it would come out of that election account. But I can tell you, when I look over the 5 years for that account, I've spent $13,000 one year, $11,800 another year, $10,792, $10,418. But I can tell you this, it generally covers, because we do 2 days of absentee voting, we call it here. So that staffs all that as well as whatever overtime is necessary in the clerk's office that we have to take out of there. And it's going to happen anyway. If I have to take it out of one of the other accounts, it's going to get done. So, you know,
Great.
I do what we have to do. So that is level funded.
Does anyone have any, I'm just going to be really brief on this one. Does anyone have any questions on the FTR? Okay, great. So we can move on to number 7, the discussion of the probate court's budget.
So the probate court has no change. The salaries, the judge's salary, it's it's been that, and by the way, we are right in the middle on the judges' salaries too. Probate court, traditionally, they don't pay the judges much. He does put in an awful lot of work. He's very experienced at it. He's been doing it 25 years. He's very good at it, very compassionate with it. The recording expense, we scan all our probate records and we send them out to the ACS, to where our recordings go, so that it's kept off premise. Now, if it goes more than that, it's gonna go through my recording expense of clerk. If it's less than that, and they need the recording expense from there, it's interchanging. I think one year, maybe it was the last year, someone raised the question, why don't you take it out of there and increase your clerk recording? Well, I hesitate to do it, because it is an expensive probate, and it should be realized as an expensive probate. I don't want someone to think that doesn't necessarily need the recording. We have to keep those records on premise as well. The software is a set amount. She hasn't gone up since I've had it. And our supplies, sometimes we're short on it, but I take it out of clerks.
So you said this was level?
That's level funded.
Okay. Anyone have any questions on the probate budget?
No.
We all good? Okay, great. Okay, probate's done. We can move on to number 8, which is discussion of municipal courts budget.
Now, the charter still holds the clerk as the clerk of the municipal court, but the actual operations of that we used to do in the clerk's office is now done at the police station, because it's all e-ticketing now. And we cannot get through the police department's servers and security walls to get this information enough for us to be able to do it. They handle the information, they're used to it. I think they can be much more efficient doing it. So I believe Chief Jones has that budget included with his.
Can you point me to the right page?
Sure.
What we should be.
I'm actually, I'm looking for it too, and it appears as though it's not in this document.
It's behind police.
Yeah, police, municipal court.
Yeah, but do you have something in the actual?
No.
Yeah. So it would probably be in the package that the clerk gave us, I would imagine. Is that accurate?
No, because the expense of that clerk is under the police department.
Okay, hold on. So
So
municipal court's in here, no, at all?
No.
Well, the
Because
entire
of
one
course,
is in there,
the salary for the municipal court judge,
Mm-hmm.
he's now gonna list it under his, and the clerk that is handling the work.
So it was a little bit of a misnomer that I put it on this agenda then,
Well,
probably.
because I'm still considered the clerk of municipal.
Right, that's right, yeah,
court.
you have to wear the hat. I think we went through that. You
Yes,
have to still
I
wear the
have
hat
to
legally.
continue
Right,
with the
right,
hat,
right, right.
but I don't have the
Right.
personnel that's
Right,
performing the
right.
work.
That's right, I remember that now.
Okay.
Somehow I remember that. Okay,
Um,
so we can, so there's really, unless we look in the, let me just look to Jan, just a sec, let me just look to Jan. Jan, is there something that you know of in the police budget that we can look at? All right, well, let's just look at it quickly and see if it makes sense to look at
It
it.
doesn't have anything.
Well, then that means you just look through the general document under municipal court. I think in the general document, they also follow the police.
And that would be at the beginning, right? That would be in, like, your,
So that's not legal services?
nope.
No, it's,
Municipal court
Court.
following the police.
If you look at the budget,
it's nine,
under
yeah.
municipal court, it'll give you line items like 5114, 5175, 7423.
Under,
There's
under
only-
nine-
there's only
19
five
six-
of them.
under 1960.
Page 8 of the budget.
Thank you very much.
It's because we don't have page 8.
And it's level funded except for $500 for supplies.
$1,000 request for computer. So it's up $1,500.
So when you add it all up, it's like an 8% increase.
Okay, so,
Could ask the chief when he comes.
yeah, I was just gonna say, we can touch on it again. If it's a separate, maybe on, since he would, I guess, become the expert on that, so to speak, right? So, we could probably try to remember to, I put that on the agenda, if it's under a separate line item, on that night, right next to police budget. And, if there's any specific questions, we can go there. So, are there, Nancy's hat, the clerk's hat on this is to wear the official title, the clerk, per charter. Does anyone have any questions for the official officiating person? And if not, I'll move on to the next item.
Do we need to, make a motion to move to this section, or you'll just?
No, I'll just re-agendarize it, if that's a word, I think, next time.
What did you say?
I made it up.
Okay.
I will re-agendarize it.
Agenda.
We all know what he meant.
Do you all know what I meant?
Absolutely.
I think, yeah, when we touched on it this time.
I thought you said
it'll-
agendarized.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I had to ask twice.
I just have one more comment to make on this. I had hoped that when you were scheduling your site visits, you would have scheduled the site visit to the town hall. And one of the things I think,
We are going to do that, actually. Yep.
because I really want to make sure that I'm here so you can see the vault.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are two accounts which are grants type accounts from the state. When we do recordings, $1 of every recording goes into the historical records account. It's a general law, and it is restricted to just use of restoring historical records in the municipal office there, and we have restored some books in there, and I gotta tell you, when you do books, you're talking thousands to restore a book. And and because that is an account that is restricted into that use, and there's state laws, what they are, I'd like you to see what's being done with that. And there is a second account from the recording as well. This is from recording, not from stamp tax. And it's 10%, and it goes to a technology account, and that is for technology used strictly for the recording of records and for the preservation of records. And we have really done quite a bit in that vault from where it was, and that money goes to good use. So when you do your tour on the town hall, I think you'd be interested in seeing the work that is done there and downstairs in the archives room. So, that's all I have. Thank you.
I'd really like to see those. I mean, look at the documents from the 1500s in Spain that were literally eaten through.
We have restored ripped up old things, and they're not, it's really something to see in there. And quite frankly, because I came from treasure and collection, I really didn't think much about records till I took on clerk. And I gotta tell you, I've really got a better respect for them now, so.
Just for the record, and we're going to talk about this at the end, but since you brought it up, in my notes, in my little schedule, which sometimes I put up here, I do have Saturday, February 23rd written down as, for site visits, library/town hall.
Oh, okay.
So, I've got to piggyback too, and that seemed reasonable to do those two.
So this is February 23rd?
Yeah, that's how I've
Okay.
got it piggybacking right now, so
Fine.
FYI. I mean, nothing's final till it happens, but that's sort of how it's shaking up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Nancy.
Nancy?
Okay, so next on our agenda is discussion of senior citizens service budget. Come on forward.
I didn't bring my notes. I'm yours.
What's the number of the budget, please? The seniors?
It's 6110, so it looks like it's second from the bottom toward the back of the binder, second from the bottom, or maybe right around there.
It's on page 10 of the docket.
Yeah, I see it.
This is the request.
Thank you.
That's a Public Works I quoted, so it'll be the next one. That's the tab, anyway, what I called out.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Um, I just want to make sure that we have introductions. I just want to make sure it's Janet, right?
Yeah, I'm Janet.
Janet,
Yeah.
and your last name is
Holmes,
Holmes.
like Sherlock.
And wasn't there a prior that was Janet Gomes?
Janice.
Janice Gomes. All right,
Janice and Holmes.
I was over there about a
Still
month and a half
confusing.
ago, and I got very confused. I thought I was having a
we
moment.
confuse a lot of
I
people.
thought I was having a moment, so, okay.
No.
Well, okay, great. Do you know everyone here? I think you probably.
Well, some of you came to visit, so.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
hopefully-
I'm Jennifer Rashley.
Yes,
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
reckon-
Brendan?
Deb.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Karen.
Ruth Hollenbach?
Tom Haley?
Jay Edwards.
Jay
Joe Souza.
and Joe. Yeah. Nice.
Great.
Nice to officially meet you in an official setting here.
Well, yeah, some of us, it's been 2 years ago for some of us.
So, I will let you, the way we've been doing, well, we get different ways we do this.
Okay.
Jan has his own technique, and then you notice Nancy had her technique, where she kind of went through the budget. So I will leave it up to you. It's probably, if you'd like to go through it line by line, or just kind of.
Oh, there's very few changes to
Okay.
the budget. Most of it's the same. I mean, if you want to just focus on the changes.
Sure, why don't you do that, and then.
I mean, it was just, let's see. Of course, there's like we're requesting a 2% change in my income. I also had requested for my assistant, but she's under union, and that, I guess, falls in a different place. So they amended that, or I guess that's a different negotiation. And then the other one, under the supplies, activities, and instruction, I requested 12.5 for that. Just, I find that I always have to borrow for that particular account from a different account. We did request a lot less for our electrical. We had issues last year, and fortunately, that was paid back, so we didn't need as much for the electrical, so we're saving there, so. But those are really the only changes that I had requested. Pretty much everything was the same. I'm going to double check as I'm looking through this. The only one that was the increase in the supplies, activities, instruction. That's because we have a lot of instructors that come through, and that's where we get our class donations, and we pay that back to the town. It's almost asking basically for the same amount that we give to the town, just because it's kind of a revolving, the classes, we charge $3 for each of the exercise classes and activities, and that money we pay back to the town. But I had to borrow it from different accounts last year to finish paying for instructors. So that's why I asked for the increase on that. But other than that, that's kind of where we were. Everything else was sufficient, I thought. All the other accounts, we had enough to pay the bills, maintenance projects, and like all the septic, we have to have it, the cesspool has to be cleaned out 3 to 4 times a year, and that's kind of a big expense under the maintenance budget, along with exterminators, the alarm, general stuff like that. Oh, we did replace 2 doors last year, too, 1 exterior door, 1 interior door. What else we do? We're always doing something to, well, you guys got the walkthrough, so you could see some of the changes we did over the last, 2 years. So, do you have questions for me?
What we can do, we'll start, we're on this side this time, and we just kind of go around quickly, go this way. So, go ahead.
Janet, again, to understand, basically with the supply and activities instruction number, the senior center collects fees, and then you reimburse the town.
Right, for the classes, but I still, from this budget, is I pay the instructors for those classes. So in my instructors, there's a number of them, and they all have different monthly, hourly fees that I have some that are, $15 an hour, some that are $40 an hour, depending on,
So is the senior center collecting some revenue, is that?
right.
So
Yeah,
that's-
that's the class money that we,
Okay.
for each class that they take, they pay $3. So we collect all that, and then I write a check every 6 months to the town. So we just, so that's about anywhere between, it's about $10,000, $11,000 a year.
So it ends up being,
Comes back, yeah. So that's kind of the money that I'm looking at this pool.
okay,
It's a-
so it's a very economical way to bring all kinds of services to our seniors.
Exactly, and I try to expand the services, so that's why I need more,
Yeah,
some more
right.
money to pay for the instructors.
Right, you have to bring them in before you can pay them.
Exactly,
So bring them in,
exactly.
okay.
Yep. And also on that same account is my account that I use to pay for my printing for my newsletter, which I've increased the amount we get for that, because we're getting about 200, now we're up to 300 a month that we hand out. I was getting 250, but then I ended up printing another 50 on my own, so that increases how much I pay for my newsletters, but it's bringing more people in too, so,
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a huge percentage.
yep.
So many more people are interested. Okay, thank you.
Great, so a question in terms of, there's some capital items. And will we get to those kind of separate as we look at, I guess I'm looking at Jan, but, so we don't need to address those now unless now's the time to.
Maybe after you've done these questions, you can, I think there's one capital item, if I'm not mistaken, but.
Well, there's a facility and a bus, I think.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because we're supposed to address them in line with the nightly items. So, why don't we just address it now? You have a question on it.
Yeah, but I guess maybe before we hit that, I would just ask us, thank you, 2 weeks ago, we came, it seemed like great things happening programmatically at the senior center, and the progress made from the year before in terms of just cleaning up things and making it better, more functional space. Congratulations. When you look at other communities, are there programmatic things that Tiverton is missing? I mean, it seems like here's a great service, well-used, citizens are willing to pay for many of these types of things. Are there sort of broader categories of things that other communities are doing for their seniors that that Tiverton should be doing, you would hope that we would be doing? So I appreciate you coming with a level budget, greatly appreciated, and sort of asking what more would you like to do?
I see a number of senior centers. I'm on a directors association, so we meet quite frequently. And one thing I know that we're lacking is transportation. Our bus is only providing transportation for 2 days a week. I am increasing it to 3 days a week starting in February, and I'm hoping to get up to 4 days a week by April. I ended up having a small grant that from Senator Felag for $2,000, which will help me pay for the bus driver for another day. But that's one place that we really lack. Most towns have a 5-day transportation, and many even take people on appointments, which we are limited as to taking them to doctor's appointments and things like that. We try to just get them to the center or to shopping, because we have a number of people that rely on, for shopping purposes when they're homebound. So, I just see that is a place, and we also, our bus is a second-hand bus, and I question its longevity. I really do. I do know someday it would be nice to have a reliable bus for us, but down the road. Right now it's working, so knock on wood. Because we just got it about a year ago, I guess it was. It's a retired RIPTA bus, so. But it has its issues. So, but fortunately we have the public works mechanics that really see to it as much as they can. We had problems with the lift froze this week, so we have one person who relies on it for the lift. Sure. And we went to go pick her up, and it wasn't working because of the cold weather. So they got it working again, but it's. I ended up picking her up in the car and brought her in that way, we'll make our way, but,
So that would be one area, and to do that, there might be, is hitting the capital, is to say, we need a better vehicle, but then the other piece would be wages to pay the driver,
The
correct? And
driver,
insurance or things that would go.
yeah.
So I echo what Brendan said, because in 1 year, the change was so different in the building and the programs you've added. And we know from the studies that seniors who socialize more live longer and live healthier lives. So I thank you.
Thank you.
The grant, that's to pay for the bus driver's salary, correct?
Yes,
So-
yes, to increase her hours, yeah.
All right. So, and I know I was going to ask about the capital also, because I know that you have some things to do. But I did have a question. My senior center,
Oh,
that
that
line?
is our, when you walk in the door, the Scanish system with the little, it's like a UPC that they scan, and it shows all our members, and they click it, they scan when they walk in the door, and then they select all the activities that they're doing. So it keeps track of the members that are in the building. It also keeps track of the activities that they're taking part in. It's a way to, our activity level. It measures it within the senior center. Shows what people are doing and participation, really. But
I
it's
didn't
good.
even realize we had that.
Yeah, oh yeah, we do. It's a nice system, and we give them a little scan card, and if they lose it, we scan it, and we can see their name, like who it belongs to.
So our senior center is going paperless.
We're trying, we're trying more and more.
Great. Thank you.
I'm all set, thank you.
Thanks.
Unfortunately, I missed your tour. I'm wondering if I could just swing by for a very short
I
one.
would love it. I actually invite you to come while we're working, while we're active, because then you can meet some of the members and see us while, Saturdays are fun, but you didn't see all the folks,
Right, okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
The only significant thing I saw, and I'm trying to wrap around why it is the electric went down 36%. Now, is that because you changed your lights to LEDs, or is it because of that restructuring?
What happened was
Of
it
the
had,
debt.
well, no, it had increased, well, when they did the lights for the town, there was a certain amount that had to be paid back, that was, what do they call it, when you have a big loan, basically?
Yeah, right.
Financing, thank you. So the financing was put on each of the individual departments.
Right.
So that's why the increase was so high. So it was, ultimately, it was supposed to bring the costs down by having all this LED, but when you put the finance charges on it, it increased it, like, it doubled my bills. And so that's why we had asked, but then they found money in a rebate or something to pay it back. So that's why we're back to a more reasonable price. And does that make sense?
No, it does. So what you're really saying is that the rebate was the tail, we were waiting to see it wag, if you will.
Kind of, yeah. But
So
it
you
was a
had to
shocker
wait for
when it
National
happened.
Grid to give you
Yeah.
the rebate. All
Well, we
right.
didn't expect it, and all of a sudden we started getting these bills and we had to research it, and then we figured it out what it was. And then Denise and those here in town figured out how to pay it back with a rebate so that, but we had originally budgeted for more because we could see it was, I don't know, it was like a 5-year loan or something
Mm-hmm.
crazy. So, but fortunately that was fixed, so.
Yeah, I know last year, those of us who were here last year, we were all like,
Yeah.
what the hell happened?
Well, when I got the bill, that was me too.
You know, it just didn't make sense.
No.
All right, then, it's not exactly net zero, but the supplies and activities sort of becomes net zero.
Yeah, well, it's a little close. It's pretty close, yeah.
Could be, probably isn't.
Well, it's like you try to increase your activities, right, and get more interest, but then it has to catch up, so you don't always have the money in the account. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better to have a budget and have it there, and so when you need it, you.
You have it, and then you can.
The guy says, hey, I can do this for you, you can say, good, come on board.
Right.
That's it.
Your current salary is the 56,100,
Yes,
so they haven't approved your contracts when?
next year,
Next year.
one more year, and then you get to
All right, so you're,
disapprove me, approve.
all right, so you're still at 56,100. The only thing I was gonna say is, there's no reason to not start looking for a new bus now. We've already had, we can document that we've had problems with it, so before we do lose this one, maybe we can keep putting requests in up at RIPTA, or,
I don't know if they'll let me again, because this is the second one that we've gotten.
they do it, they change their buses out at, regular intervals, so they always have buses available.
No, I understand that, but
Yeah.
I just, I don't know how, it was, I can always ask. I can
Yeah,
always
well, the
ask.
only other thing I'll say is, I noticed that.
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily mean a brand-new bus, he means
No,
another
I'm
bus.
talking about, like, that's how we got that one. We applied, we got in line, so
No,
now
no.
that you're starting to have problems,
No,
because
I
other
just
communities
got
also
another one,
requested.
though, Joe.
This is what I'm saying,
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
You've
this is
already
the
had a
second.
problem with
Yeah.
liftgate,
Yep.
all right? And there's problems with the bus already. So that's a reason why you can apply
Right,
now,
right.
before it totally breaks out. So that's what I'm saying, is don't wait like we did last time until it totally fails. The injectors went out on the old bus, we had nothing. Because you got a better chance of getting a bus from them, I think, than you do from the town right now, so.
Okay.
That's my only suggestion. And we can document that there's been issues with the lift, which is a safety issue. So if you got a
Right.
person on the bus and you can't get them out,
Yep,
we can emphasize that. That's it.
okay.
I'm going to ask for a rebate on my question. I just want to make sure I have the right number. So the 122,439, is that accurate with the total you're requesting, or am I on the wrong?
121,
122,439?
Isn't this it?
Am I wrong?
121?
I'm not sure what he's saying.
Well, I'm looking at this total here as the 121,758.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's what I
Isn't that
got.
what we're requesting right here?
Yes.
Yeah, 121,758 is what we have.
121, what's the date of your document?
January 14th, 2019.
So, okay,
Look at the next page, or?
it's less than mine, so I'm not gonna, I'll take your number.
Oh, okay.
And the prior year, I don't know if do you have a prior column? So I have 121,686.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, mine was dated Jan 4. Okay, I was just gonna make a comment about it being 0.6% and how great that is, and it's even lower than that, so even better.
0.06%.
Yes, that's what it is.
Point,
.06.
0.06.
oh, was it 0.0? Well, I think it was 0.6 when I did the calculation, it's probably
Now it's
0.06 with the
0.06,
real number.
Yeah,
so.
it's less than 1%. It's less, it's
oh, yeah.
less than,
It's less
it's
than,
less than a,
right, less
it's
than a
less than a
10.
tenth.
Right, yeah.
It's only 600ths.
Right. Off of the new number,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. So I was just gonna say thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
They don't have to sharpen their knives. Thank you for that. Awesome. Okay, so I used my rebate.
Quick question, because I got missed with the capital.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I started and then we started with capital here. When we visited, someone had also mentioned to inquire at Brookdale, Secaucus Bay about their buses. I don't know if that's,
Oh, I haven't had a chance to inquire anything with them, but I'm
I-
not
like-
sure who to speak to there.
yeah.
I'm sure it has
So
to
I
be
don't know, but it was,
administrators.
and I know my dad had been there and their buses were really nice. So it would be,
Is it a private facility?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
it's on Main Road, just as you get off the exit.
Yep. It's the Secaucus Bay, well, it used to be
Secaucus
called.
Bay Manor.
yeah,
Brookdale,
yeah,
Secaucus Bay.
Brookdale.
Brookdale.
If you go way
I
back.
think
to
you
Coach-
mentioned.
Coachman, that's what I was saying, where the coachman was,
That's
yeah.
where I had my
Never been to
civic
Coachman
comment.
since I've lived here, so I don't know what that looked like.
You didn't miss much in the later years.
Did you want to ask about the capital for the senior center?
Sure, sorry, yes, let's do that, and I'm looking at a document. Where'd it go? I just had it in my hand. Says draft at the top, so I see 15, 50, and a total of 65, is that the right document, if I look right?
Right, so five-year
Five-year
capital
plan.
Oh,
plan.
right, make sure, okay.
Page 1,
Yeah.
down the bottom.
It looks like it's dated January 14th, right? Yeah, okay.
Correct.
So let's talk about that, thank you very much.
So that is essentially, and actually in the tab behind the non-recurring, I believe it is, there is some information that DPW Director Rogers developed with estimates for what needs to be done in the building and how much that approximately would cost.
Oh, okay. Okay, great.
Unfortunately, there's quite a bit of that, well, fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of backup material behind that tab, I believe. But it's essentially an email from him dated January 11th. I think you should have that in there.
Yeah, I don't have it, but they did have it when they came, when you guys came for the walkthrough, you had mentioned that you had gotten that.
I want to get on that page, so you're toward the beginning of your binder.
So what's the beginning of the binder? I have it behind, but I may have it slightly different, but it's non-recurring capital,
Thank you.
the first part of which is capital improvements. And the later part is equipment replacement. This is towards the, or at the end of the capital improvements. On the town buildings, you sort of have to wade, I put little separators in my binder.
Okay.
Have you been able to find it or not?
Yeah, there's an email from,
Rick Rogers.
okay,
Is it in here? And,
It's like, 15 pages in the back of that whole
From
file?
the back? Thank you.
No, yeah, of that whole package we got.
Right.
Dated
Gmail on top.
1/11/19.
Says Gmail at the top, according to Ruth.
Yeah, Gmail.
Yes. It says Gmail on the top. Yeah.
Matt?
You don't have it?
I got it right here.
Okay, great.
Fabulous.
Okay.
Okay.
And the idea is that we would do a certain amount of work in the first year of this 5-year plan, and then we expect that there's quite a bit more work to be done in the next year. And we had actually made the estimates before he did the analysis, and the analysis is actually backing it up that you can do that within those amounts.
Did you have the spreadsheet?
And,
I don't have.
Oh, all right.
I don't know if he's here. Where is Rick?
It's his fault. Not yet.
So the 15,000 for year one, and that number is had by going through this email and parsing out all the items that would apply in year one. Is that how you come up with the 15? Calling those out?
If I'm not mistaken, this is your email, and you also have it in a spreadsheet format, but that's the total amount of work that we're currently seeing that needs to be done.
Yes, but does not include interior, exterior painting.
So-
It just addresses those items, but it needs paint.
So if I could help, the email, all the items in here total $38,300.
It's on the next page.
And then the spreadsheet or the sheet totals that as well. And the
Okay,
recommendations,
yeah, this is
therefore,
fine.
of the 38,300 is the request to do 15,000 in FY '20.
Correct.
Correct?
And,
And then
And then-
regroup and see how much more we need to.
and so in the next 2 years, it's 15, it would be a total of 65,000, and that would include the painting?
That,
And
the estimate, yes.
Which is
The-
not here.
Right, but
Okay.
the estimate for the painting, there's also interior, work to be done. This addressed the bulk, but there's some interior finish work, et cetera.
Okay. So the difference between the 38,300 in this document and the 65,000 over 2 years in this one, the differential is what it would cost
Right. And
to
the
paint and
numbers-
repair.
Right, and the numbers would be refined as you do the
Over time.
repairs.
Okay. Thank you. Replacing a dirt floor, good idea?
Well, what happened, that was one of the reasons why we had to replace the interior door in the basement, because the floor was sinking underneath, the dirt was settling, and the door actually came off the hinges, because the whole frame, yeah, so that was, and they could see that, they fixed it for now, but they know that it's not going to be a permanent fix.
The floor is already buckling in those small areas, in those
Okay.
2 different small areas. And as you seem to indicate, you understand that dirt floors are not the way to go.
Are not ideal. Unless you're camping. Can I ask questions?
Yeah, so, why don't, lost my train of thought there, I'm getting tired. Why don't you start and we'll go around, that's fine.
With this list, what is the reason to only do like a quarter of these fixes this year instead of more? Like, why would it be better to do half today and half tomorrow? Or half this year, half next year?
I'm happy to answer that. All of the work could be done presently, but it's just felt, as far as I'm understanding it, better to allocate money when you have other monies not being spent, so that there's room for it, and put it in that year.
So, Jan, is that because there are other things money going to other things in the town, and so this
That's
is a
what
way
we're
to
trying to do
stagger?
with the 5-year plan, is look, across the different departments or areas where we need to do capital expenditures, how can we spread it out and even it out a little bit? And some of that means looking at, how urgent is it to get this particular work done? And some of it, we clearly felt needed to be done sooner rather than later. And other parts could be postponed. You'll see that in several line items in the capital plan.
So then the last little bit is going back to the issue of the bus that we may need. That's not counted.
Not in that. There's a second part to that budget, which is about equipment replacement, and that has a lot of the vehicles.
Okay,
That's where the bus shows up.
okay.
So that answered, I'm sorry.
I'm also thinking.
Is, if $15,000 were approved as part of the capital plan of the 38.3, do you have a clear sense of what to do right away? Like, is there a prioritization of the list of things?
Actually, he's got it down, fiscal year. Yeah, he has the years on the chart, which ones
Got it.
prioritized.
Oh, okay.
He's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
very thorough.
Great, and that'd add up to at least the 15K.
Again, you could do, without wasting money, you could spend all of it in the next fiscal year. Just like many people do, they do a little at a time based on funds being available.
Understood, and I appreciate that. What we're looking at presented for the first time for the town is looking out over 5 years, and to have some kind of balance over the 5 years about how much we spend. We're making some priorities about what has to get, what we think should get done better. And we've got a lot of round numbers, right? And it's because we're not sure which will go where. And my opinion, kind of looking at this, is saying, it's like Go Fish or Crazy 8, you get what you want. Do you know what you're going to do right away? As opposed to having these what look like round numbers, and it's like it's just a placeholder, right? So to me, knowing that we've identified very specific things, there's estimates on how much the work could be done, and there's a prioritization of it to say, yes, if you gave us 15,000, we would do this. If we did 10, same list, it's just 2 items shorter. Helps me. As opposed to, there are some things that will be out there to say, we don't know, and there's a placeholder in the capital budget for 50,000, and the 50,000 gets allocated, and then there's still a ton of work that needs to be done to say, is it really cost that? So that's what I was trying to drive at, is that it's clear for the senior center, if we approved it, that you would know what to do with it, and then following years, if you got more than you wanted or less than what you wanted, you would know what you would want to do in order. So if that's the case, that's answers my question.
And just following up on that point, because I get the point, and there's a reason why we have not been able to do this for every line item. I mean, this is one where Rick has all the expertise and knowledge to be able to break it down, estimate what needs to be done, how much it will cost. There's some other issues where we actually would need another type of expert to do that initial analysis.
Give us the
And
estimate.
that's where that initial allocation is for.
Great, thank you. Mhm.
It's a great document, Rick. It's great.
I have to give a lot of credit to Janet and Phil for
Yeah, I mean, it just breaks it down so that we can see how it's prioritized and what needs to be done, firsthand, and what we can push off, so.
Fortunately, a building like this lends itself to being able to do that.
I think it needs to be on the historical register, right? Thank you.
I just want to follow up, Rick, what did you mean by that? I'm just curious. Like, what is it, this building, is it just because it's access, the components of the building are accessible? Or what is it about the building that lets you piecemeal it like that?
I have it out.
For instance,
I'll
when
add
you're
it to the
trying
office. I just
to do
didn't bring
something
it there.
underground,
I knew you meant it here.
or when you're trying to repair a road, or when you're trying to repair, as we discussed before about the seawall, when you're trying to discuss landfill closure, or constructing a building that hasn't been designed yet, that's a lot harder to estimate. And therefore, it has more of a plus or minus to it. There's plus or minus to this too, because in 6 months, prices could rise. But it's not the same degree.
Right. So when you look at it, the scope is defined of what you're trying to accomplish. So you're really just, the only variables are really the cost of materials or things like that, which are pretty stable. Yeah.
Anything that's hidden.
Right.
Just like if you
Oh, that, yeah.
shingle your house, and the contractor
Mhm.
would say, we didn't understand that the sheathing, nobody saw the sheathing.
Was rotted, right?
Right.
Yeah, but, okay, I'm done. Thank you for that, though.
So yes, Tiverton, we really do care about our seniors. I think everybody knows that, and this committee knows that. The building is one thing, Rick and Jan and Janet, but I also have concerns. I just want to make sure that you're okay with things like tax return, income tax help, things that I've heard that you do and that you continue to do. I just want to make sure that you are still doing those, and other helps, any help that a senior citizen might need other than just having the building. That's one thing I understand. You have to
The
keep it up.
services.
And I do understand when I see your document, Rick, when you have when one of them fits into FY20, is listed for FY20, if you add those up, is that the 15K for this year?
No.
No?
The concept of the fiscal year
Mhm.
is just as if a contractor was giving you a plumber and an
Okay, so-
electrician.
yeah.
We're giving you something. If your plumbing is leaking, you need to fix it now. If
Okay.
your plumbing is rusty all over,
So-
you need to keep it in mind that it could pop today and it might last another year or so.
Right, and when I was at the building, it did look like it was in very good shape. I know there's some issues, I understand that, but I don't see a lot of it as being urgent, and I'm waiting to hear what Joe Souza says, because I know he'll have a good handle on, also, in addition to you, I understand what would be, more urgent, and so, I see here with, for example, remove asbestos wall sheathing and basement, you've got 5 different years where you could actually do that.
Yes.
So, it could be done in FY24, so I'm just saying,
And that was so people would be able to see
Mhm.
when and where they could spend the money.
Mhm.
There's no requirement
Mhm.
to remove
No legal-
undisturbed
Okay.
asbestos. However, if you want to make use of that room, you want to get rid of it.
Is that not something that can be covered up with something? They can do that legally sometimes.
Legally, you can, but it's not, in my estimation, a good approach in a senior center.
Why?
If you're gonna use the room, get rid of the asbestos.
I'm just saying, you can even cover up a floor of asbestos, it's legal and it's viable. So I'm just letting you know that, we just have to be, we do love our senior center, but we do still want to be a bit on the safe and frugal side of this long list of expenses that you've put out here, okay? This is a lot, okay? And so I'm just saying, we need to think about it carefully, that's all I'm really trying to say. Thank you for listing it out so carefully. That's it, well said.
I think you guys did a great job, and you got a handle on everything. I'm pretty pleased. Thanks.
Well, that's it. No, you guys did a very good presentation.
Thanks, Jen.
So I'm the only one that's not gonna be satisfied, I guess, because I don't understand these numbers. Are these numbers based on us doing the work in-house?
No.
Because we haven't had actual estimates done on any of this. This is just what you think it's gonna cost.
Yes, for instance, on the shingling, measure it, take a square price for the labor and materials, and say, this is what I
What
think.
did you use for a price per square?
I don't have that right off the top of my
It's
head.
very low. We had estimates of I don't know if anybody remember, when we went out to bid on the windows, the estimate came in at $100,000 almost. Every time we've had bids on that building, just the sidewall, the back wall was over $45,000. That's why,
Well, that's windows, that's not windows,
no,
right?
I'm just saying, I think these estimates are way too low if we're talking about going out to bid on anything. We don't have it. See, I'm looking for shovel-ready projects. We've already went out to bid or had a professional estimate done. In other words, a contractor came in and assisted you with information to make the bid with current prices per square foot for shingling, how many windows are there, how much cutting they gotta do. The more windows and the more edging, the more it costs. The roof on the back, the very back of the building isn't mentioned, and it's in pretty bad shape. That's where the new ceramics room is. That roof wasn't changed. The main roof has a 50-year warranty on it. It's been up there about, I don't know, 8 years, whatever, 8 to 10 years. But that back roof is held on, a lot of the shingles are held on with tar, because I put them on myself, so tar on them, the ones that were ripping off. So that came in, that bid was like 18,000, 19,000 to change that roof in the back. The masonry, I questioned $4,000 for, just repairing what little bit of masonry around the foundation that needed to be repaired. So I have none of these estimates seem realistic to me, I'm sorry. I mean, I know we went around, everybody was appreciating it, but I don't see realistic estimates. I just see that you guys kind of did your own thing and figured somewhere in the middle. But parking lot, the only thing I see listing about the parking lot is the striping. I feel that should be on the paving this year. That should be in, I know it's a different budget, but that should be in the paving. The bus we talked about, the asbestos in the, that's a boiler room. I mean, you can't put anything in that boiler room. You're not supposed to use it for storage. It's a boiler room. Nothing flammable supposed to even be in that room. The reason they made it asbestos is because it's a boiler room. If the boiler burned, it would save the rest of the building. So I have no problem with those walls being asbestos. And there shouldn't be anybody in there anyway, except to do maintenance on the boiler, to just check on things. So I just totally agree we need to remove any of that asbestos. I think it saves the building if there's a fire. That's why it was put in there. So I think, we need to get a bid on that back roof. We need to measure out the square footage on the parking lot, and see what that's gonna cost us to pave. That would be the two priorities that I would push for. No, I'm sorry, it was a third, the water line. I think we should push on the water line and the paving, and get a bid this year on the roof, so that can go into next year's budget.
The water line is going to be done pretty soon, and that's
Yeah.
going to be a partnership with Public Works and North Tiverton water, we've already had that discussion, and that's in the works.
A lot of this other stuff, like fixing the masonry, I mean, Phil can do that in the summer. That's a day or two's work out there with some mortar.
That's good.
And we looked at a lot of the trim board. A lot of the trim board is just rotted at the bottom, and there was some, there was a few, but I mean, that's not really a priority right now. But the shingles, there's actually a leak in the south wall up above. And then if you look over to the right, where that bat house was, the shingles, you can see the nails. So the shingles have completely deteriorated and broke off. So that south wall should be something that we get a bid on and look into. That was out of the 4 walls, that was the worst one. And we did actually go out to bid on that 3 years ago, and the money was put in the budget, but the council never went out to bid, so, I know it went back into the general fund, so it's, it wasn't, that's it.
But if I may, I would like to address some of those comments. Thank you, Joe. I certainly don't expect 11 people on a committee to all be in agreement, and I am not against additional monies being set aside to do the parking lot or to shingle some of the roof. I'm not against more money being spent. The shingling on the walls, for instance, Joe mentioned the south wall, thank you. There's a new windows, and I'm assuming for financial reasons, they were shingled in a way that somebody with enough money would not have shingled them. They shingled the portions right around the windows. So above the windows and below the windows, and in some of the triangular shapes where the adjoining southern wing attaches to the building, that was not shingled. So these estimates are based on what you should do. It will not match. A lot of people living in a house would not want the shingles to be set up where they're not weathered the same, because it's going to be perpetually until maybe 15, 20 years. They're going to be a different color. And as Jana mentioned, the water service is on the schedule to be done when the weather breaks, both inside and outside, right at the connection. And it's expected, whenever you say, I'm going to shingle the roof or shingle the wall, that you would get a price from somebody. You wouldn't simply say, go shingle. So definitely on that point, that I'm in agreement with Joe, that's standard operating practice. And the asbestos removal, yes, it is a boiler room. However, again, the reason for the 5 different years, you have usable space there. And Joe is correct. The intent of the asbestos is to contain a fire. However, you don't need that large an area. And with fire code sheetrock, you can accomplish the same thing and have a portion of that room where you could do an activity. And as Joe pointed out, it's really better not to store stuff in the same boiler room. But if you separated it, then you could use it as a storeroom more comfortably. And as Ruth mentioned, you don't have to get rid of the asbestos. Everybody's going to have different opinions, but I'm a proponent if something is relatively easy to get rid of that's considered hazardous in some form. Only if it's inhaled. You can touch it all day long, but you're talking about seniors, and you don't want them scraping up against it. Now, not everybody's going to be in agreement with that, I understand that, but I put forth what I think are logical procedures and estimates.
And just to be clear, the seniors don't go in that room at all.
Yeah, no.
They don't even know it exists.
Now, the only thing I saw there was years ago, they stored big tables and stuff in there. I'm not sure if there's something.
Is the asbestos, how much is exposed to
It's
the
all
air?
closed in,
Yeah.
and it's a closed-in room. It
No, I mean,
has-
on the walls themselves, is the asbestos where
Yes,
you would
it's
just touch it?
exposed.
Yeah, it's a sheets of
Yeah.
asbestos, you
Right.
know, it lines the walls,
I
I
see.
guess, or the, but it's,
And there's no state law, there's no law that says you have to do it now, soon or within a certain period of time there in that kind of situation?
To my knowledge, no.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, you also, with somebody who's licensed, encapsulate it, just like you can with lead.
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Would you mind getting the estimate for that too? And so we can compare in future, for future reference?
yes,
Okay.
that could be done
Okay.
in the future.
Yeah.
You would be able to spend all your $15,000 without touching that asbestos room in the fiscal year '20.
Right, and still would like, if there's an option other than what you have here, that I would still like to know what that estimate would be, you know? If you have an option to cover it, like what would the estimate be? Just for information, you know, that's good to make decisions. and-
Again, that'd be something you could do in-house. You could go in there with 5 gallons of paint. So all you gotta do is paint it.
I think that might be true. I've heard the same thing in the past. I'm just not sure about currently.
That's for lead rules,
But-
you can, but I
I'm
don't know.
not sure.
Thing is, we never had to bother with it. It's been there, what, 60 years, and it's not bothered anybody. Leave it alone. You know?
Well, it can be discussed.
So, we went around this way, got to Joe, we had discussion. Are there any more, on these capital items, right? That's what led to this, I believe?
Yes.
So, are there any more capital items that we were discussing? Can someone help me out here a little bit? I don't think so, right?
Was the assumption that the $25,000 was for, would we have to pay RIPTA for the bus, or is this if one did not come from RIPTA?
RIPTA gave us the bus for free, yeah, it was a retired one. And they've done that before, and, you know, we get a few years out of it, at least I hope so.
That works.
I'm hoping we still, you know, it wasn't perfect. It's funny, they don't come with tires, because, did you know that they lease the tires on their buses?
They leased
Makes
the
sense.
tires?
Yes, something I learned about the internet, yes. Do not come with tires.
It'd be option to buy at the end.
We had to get the old tires from the old bus to put on the new one. Just thought it was a little fact that you might not have known.
So if I may, because you might want to ask, you know, why do we put that 25,000 in the first year of the 5 years? I put it in there because I have on several occasions now, you know, heard some serious concerns with whether the bus is going to be available or whether it will be breaking down again and things like that. So it's a rather probable event, you know, where the thing is going to break down. And earlier, you talked about how important these services are and also how important, you know, Janet mentioned transportation actually is. And if anything, you know, could we expand the transportation options? So from that perspective, it's I would think, somewhat important to create an opportunity to, you know, if RIPTA doesn't have a freebie available, to look in other directions and see if we can get a used vehicle.
How much has it cost us in the past to repair the vehicles that we've gotten from RIPTA? Like, although they've been free, how much do they cost?
I do not know that number off the top of my head. I know that our mechanic occasionally does fix them. And again, as I heard from the back of the room, there is an issue with the gate. In fact, I think there was an issue with the previous bus's gate.
Exactly.
Also, the heating system, air conditioning system
Yeah.
does not function correctly.
And then that was the problem with the last one, and the heating system, the air conditioning system malfunctioned, and it was, it just grew from there. And that's why we got this one, which, and I guess that's where their weakness is, apparently. Their heating, air conditioning. So right now, the heat is working part of the bus, the air conditioning doesn't work, but it's not a problem at the moment. It may be, hopefully, when when it gets to June again, we'll get back to, so, I mean,
Janet,
Yes.
we really would like the repair costs numbers. If you could just get that to either Nancy Mello or someone on the budget committee to get it to us. That's just going to influence decisions.
well, I guess it depends, well, we do it
If you can.
in-house, so it's part.
Okay, so then Rick, then, yeah, that would be great.
I can try to do that. We have, however, after years of not having such, well, we are appreciative that we got approval to get a scan tool with the requisite software to start tracking that.
Okay.
Yeah.
However, I do not know if the records would be somewhat available to track past costs. That's,
I can look back at my records from the bus, the previous bus, because,
Denise would have it too.
yeah, and
Thank
Denise would
you.
have them as well.
That's great,
This,
thank
this one, fortunately, we haven't had too many problems yet. I mean, I just know that
right.
we're just dealing with it with the,
And I agree with Janet and Jan, of course, but the cost would not reflect labor, because just as the small amount we do for the school, for the senior center, and a large section of labor for the fire department, that it comes out of our budget. Parts, they come out and are assigned, and then Denise or the different departments pay for those, so those are trackable.
Yeah.
But the labor is a large portion of repair costs, as you all know. So that's an unknown.
So,
That just brings up that it is good that the different departments in town do work with each other.
Yeah,
I think
oh,
that's an
goodness.
excellent savings, and you'll get credit for it in some way, I'm sure. So, thank
Rick,
you.
Rick, when you said the gate, is that the, like the lift?
wheelchair lift?
The
Yeah.
wheelchair lift?
You're right, Deb, I said the wrong word, but yes, the lift.
The lift?
I understood.
Yeah, that's right.
I knew what you were talking about.
I assumed, but, so do you think that was because of the weather, that it was just frozen? Is that what we think?
That's a good question, because because last week she went to use it, we have a woman that wants to come, and she's in a wheelchair, so we're like, oh, yes, we're all ready for you. And it worked, and then we got the cold spell, then she went to go use it, and it didn't work, and it was banging, and they got it to work again. But then when she went to pick her up, it didn't work. She was going to take her in the car.
I mean,
And then she went back, and it finally did work. So I think it was weather-related, at least.
Yeah, and just to comment on that, I mean, with seniors in a freezing situation, as my inclination would be not to pick them up at all anyway, in any kind of a bus, just for those few days, that's what I'm just
Well,
saying.
she didn't come much. She didn't come today.
Okay, I want to give, Joe wanted the floor, I want to give Joe the floor, and
Well, I was just going to say, the intention of the senior bus, when we initially started with the bus, was to help seniors that, I guess at a certain age can't drive anymore, so they have a hard time getting out shopping, go to the stores, and we used to run them up to the Harbor Mall, and it was never intended to deliver people to doctor's appointments around the,
Oh, and it's not used that way.
I'm saying it, we're talking about expanding out, but those people that are coming on the bus, obviously, they can't drive because a lot of them because they're handicapped, so it's important to have that. Those systems are electric hydraulic, and, when they get older and colder, relays malfunction, things like that, so hydraulics could have water in it, who knows, it's frozen. But, the town tries real hard to provide the service, and there's been times when the buses have been down, but we've never really been able to afford to buy a new bus. That's why we've always gone to RIPTA. So I'll just say again, we need to really try, get in, I think there's a list. You apply, you get on the list, and when one comes available, and sometimes it's based on need. I think our rep got involved last time because we didn't have a bus at all. That's why we got the one we have.
No, I got another one since then, without the rep. So, you...
Really? This is the third?
Yeah, I got a bus.
Okay.
That's
Well,
good. That's
I
the
know.
one, that's the one one we're talking about, because the other
I
one
thought you said
broke
two,
down
though.
on me.
Now you're saying three in a row that, we
Yes.
thought two, so now you're saying three.
You were talking about getting a rep involved. That
No,
was
I'm
the
saying,
last bus.
I'm saying we went a long time without a senior bus.
Right.
And
went
we ended up having to ask Jay to go up and try to get involved in it. Now, that's not the bus we have currently. I wasn't aware that we had actually another bus come
I
in.
got another bus from
But-
Ripta. It was yes.
Just that, we do what we can. We do what we can as a town, that's my point.
We're also not the only town
Yeah.
looking for this, so
Yeah.
that's, keep that in mind, that,
Yeah.
most senior services departments in town are competing for the same opportunity.
So I'd like to, we touched on the capital. I'd like to move on. It's 6 after 9. I'd like to move on if we could. Everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. So, thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Is this still yours?
the,
No, no, that's yours. Well, yours. Nice to see you guys.
I could call right,
Please come visit the center.
okay.
Thank you,
I could call right now for like maybe a 3-minute break. Does anyone take a 3-minute break, or are we good? I need to go. I need a 3-minute break, but that doesn't mean we have to stop the meeting, or we could just take one and stretch our legs. Why not? We'll be more efficient. We'll get it back in efficiency. 3-minute break. Thank you.